much easier than what I was doing back in the early days, building my own TNC for digital mode. But anyway, they got all this new stuff out there now. Just works fantastic. So let's see. You're coming in, Perry. You're coming in a good 25 over. So on peak, and then fades down to about 10. But boy, when you cranked up the audio, you're coming across static crunch. Pretty good. So no trouble whatsoever hearing you at all. W3MMR from KD4UMU.
All right, KD4UMU, W3MMR. Well, good on you on everything there. Yeah. Well, number one, I wasn't expecting to work Japan, okay? I've worked a lot of South America on 80-meter FT8, okay, and a lot of West Coast and stuff like that, but I was actually only doing it because a friend of my father's, another radio friend, was having some issues running FT8, or he thought he was having some issues running FT8 on his Anon, and I wanted to see if I could duplicate his problem that he was having, or it's not even a problem, but duplicate what he was seeing on his pan adapter, and I think I was able to, but so that was the only reason I was really on FT8 this morning. I haven't worked FT8 in quite a while. I was into it pretty hardcore for a few months when I first got into it, and then I kind of eased back with it and been really into the AM thing as of late. But anyway, I started bellowing out some CQs. Well, no, excuse me. Let me backtrack. A gentleman from, I guess it was Brazil, a PV8, Papa Victor 8 call. Came back to his CQ and worked him, and was pretty strong. Got a pretty good signal report, and Brazil, and so I said, well, let me just bell out some CQs and see what happens. Maybe 3 or 4 CQs, and then boom, guy from Japan comes on the line there. So, and with a good signal report. JR2AMZ, Japan Romeo 7 Alpha Mike Zulu in Miyagi, Kensuma City, Miyagi, Japan, like in northern Japan there. So I was very, very happy with that, especially running a dipole, 75 meter doublet, you know what I mean? So, and it's really a cloud burner. But anyway, Dan, yeah, you're coming in great here this morning. Surprised I haven't heard anybody else, but usually Sundays have been quiet, as you know. It's pretty much just you, myself, and my father's earlier Sunday mornings here, it seems like, anymore. And they're right up to net time there. Maybe Henry will drop in there. Back over to you, Dan, KD4UMU with a big 25 over signal, W3MMR.
All right, gave a little pause there to see if I was going to hear somebody else jump in there as well. And, yeah, very good on the Japan contract there on FT8. And, yeah, the dipole, that's a little bit of a stretch. Usually just inside the States or close around is about the limits of it. But about the furthest contact I've made here on 75 was with David down in Ecuador, HC5DX down there, and usually he'll listen out, and when he's hearing most of the stations here in the States pretty good, he'll jump in there and throw the call out. But that's been about the limit of it, and occasionally on some real good morning. We'll get Oregon, Washington State, or something like that, or maybe somewhere around here. But usually, we'll hear Jay, K5IM from down in Texas there will come in pretty good usually, but that's about the limits, that distance there. But yeah, it's nice to hear maybe Oregon or West Coast California or something like that come in early in the morning. But it's a little bit of a stretch on most mornings. So like I say, when we hear Ecuador or further out stations, that's it's always pretty cool. So the band's working super long during those conditions. And usually how that plays out here in the mornings is we can't hear what's going on in close. So, the NVIS type of antenna is just non-functional most mornings. And, if you got that dipole up at, 35 or less feet, a lot of your signal is going straight up. And, I think that's about where I have my antenna right now, about 35 feet at the apex, so it's not up awfully tall at all. But, like I say, running that folded dipole out there, it's running pretty efficient for a half wave. So, and I've tried several different antennas down here at Prairie just to see which one I could squeeze the best performance out of down low. And, looks like that folded dipole is, for up and down the band is kind of the winner, but you got to run a tuner and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of people hate running tuners. But that's just the way it is. Hey, I was reading an article there that QRZ had put on their page, far side of the moon dish that they're going to put in one of those craters on the other side of the moon. And I thought, well, too bad they couldn't have done that on the Earth side. Of course, that would have probably negated anything that they wanted to do, but or at least stretch a tarp over or inside of one of those craters, so you can get a good flat reflection. And boy, that would have been nice reflective tarp for HF reflections back to Earth. That would have been pretty cool. But, I don't know, what part of the amateur community is going to employ that? Well, the answer is none. Non-profit and all that, as it is, that'll never happen. But, I guess there would be no added benefit to doing that in the scientific sense. There's some of the comments that people were putting, purpose by making that far side of the moon where the Earth will fit in. And some people are just unaware that the man in the moon never changes. So, they were talking about, when the other side of the moon comes around that we could use it for HF, and it was like, I'm not really thinking so. We're always seeing the same face in the moon all the time, so that tells me it's not spinning in relationship to how each person sees it. So the same side is always shown to the Earth. Anyway, back around to you there, W3MMR from KD4UMU.
All right, just dragging my feet. Real on a quick over. What did you say? The only part I missed was what you said they put on the moon. What, or we're going to? Can you repeat that, Dan?
Yeah, they're going to put in a reflector up there, a big parabolic dish inside one of the craters, and use it as a radio telescope.
Okay, I gotcha. I gotcha. Well, that would be pretty cool, but like you said, it would really not be beneficial to us by any means. Yeah, and I don't know how the moon works, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if the moon rotates. I don't know if it just obviously it follows the Earth, but does the moon rotate? Let's see. The moon orbits the Earth once every 27.322 days. It takes approximately 27 days for the moon to rotate on its axis. As a result, the moon does not seem to be spinning, but appears to observers from Earth to be keeping almost perfectly still. scientists call the synchronous rotation. The side of the moon that perpetually faces Earth is known as the near side. The other side is the far side, obviously. The orbit and rotation aren't perfectly matched, however. The moon travels around the Earth in an elliptical orbit, slightly stretched out circle. When the moon is closest to Earth, its rotation is slower than its journey through space, allowing observers to see an additional 8 degrees of these and blah, 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 blah. So basically, it is rotating, but it's a synchronous rotation that makes us see basically the same side every time. How about that? Well, I guess it would definitely get things out further in space. I wonder how far out, like Hubble, space telescope is. How far out in space it is. Or does that thing just travel around? Or does it orbit around the Earth? And that's how we keep track of it, Space is astonishing to me. When I think of space, put it this way, and I've had other people tell me they feel that they get this sensation too. When you think to yourself how big space is, like how big the universe is, it's like your mind goes blank when you really try to think about how far it goes. It's like it's too much for your mind to fathom or for to comprehend. It's like your mind goes blank. Just goes on and on forever. It's infinite, which is crazy. Well, I don't know if it goes on forever. They say it's always expanding, but even to get to the edge of it, if there is an edge, it's so far compared to what we're used to as distance here on Earth. So yeah, space is a cool thing, man. There's a lot out there obviously that we don't know about and we haven't seen. And I don't know if you watched the space weather, the Dr. Tamitha Skov, who does the space weather reports for Ham Nation and has her own channel there, Space Weather Woman, does a real good job there with the space weather predictions, and it's really geared towards, amateur radio operators and stuff, and makes it easy to understand, and she kind of puts it in layman's terms for dumb people like myself. So, and you had mentioned Jay, KK5IM. He's actually on the cover of this month's Electric Radio. A picture of his station is Collins Station. And his homebrew rig there, I think it's an 813 rig. He's on the cover of Electric Radio. I just got it in the mail yesterday, so that's cool. And he has obviously probably one of the most beautiful shacks I've ever seen, so it's no surprise. And yes, honestly, yeah, and the furthest station that I've worked here on 80 meter AM has been David. I worked him a few weeks ago here, and he wasn't remote. It was he was local and transmitting on the station down there in Ecuador, so that was pretty cool. And he was coming in really good, about an S9 here, and I can't when he's usually talking direct, I could never hear him. But that morning the band was really long. He was stronger than Kevin down there. That's how long the band was that morning. So you can see, you can really see how the conditions were if I couldn't hear Kevin. So so that's so cool, yeah, on the space telescope there. Back down to you, Dan. KD4UMU in the group W3MMR. No audio.
Yeah, I'm seeing a carrier in there. I don't know if somebody's going to throw a call out or what.
Doesn't appear to, and you're a lot stronger than it, so it's not going to affect you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I seen it on key there. Didn't know if somebody's going to... Well, I did hear some audio mixed with your signal there a while ago. But, same... the moon keeps the same side facing Earth all the time. So, it's rotating, but it rotates... with the speed of the Earth there, so we're seeing the same side all the time. Let's see, Hubble telescope. It's somewhere about the same range as the space station. I think it may be just a little higher orbit there, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 plus miles up. So, that being the case, that dude is ground speed-wise zipping along at about somewhere in the neighborhood of 17,000 miles per hour in space. But and it has to go that fast just to stay in orbit. And and of course, the higher the objects in space, the slower we perceive them to be. But until you go out to about 20,000 miles, and then you could put something in orbit there that is what's called geosynchronous, and it'll stay there at that one spot over Earth. So things could be built and put up there, but and of course there are radio repeaters up there everywhere. TV repeaters and everything else, communication stuff, but most of which is not available to the amateur community. But what satellites they're putting up for amateur use are usually down at about the 200-mile range. If you've ever worked through any of the satellites, so you have to get all your toys together and satellite antennas and all that, and have a good copy of the Keplerian elements to know when that satellite's going to come over and when you can get it, and all the whole 9 yards. And some people go all out doing that, and will build rotors that have azimuth and elevation on it, so that they could write a program so that antenna will track that satellite as it goes overhead with they call them Keplerian elements, and they add those Keplerian elements into their rotor control program and have the actual antenna track the satellite as it goes overhead. So some of them are pretty sophisticated on how they track those satellites overhead. But I never got into it that deep. About the only thing I did was just built some antennas that had a nice circular polarization to it, but didn't have a whole lot of gain to it. But if the satellite was strong enough, usually it could hear your signal anyway. But like I said, I did hear another station in there period, but didn't catch the audio. It was mixing with your signal. Of course, your signal wiped them out there. Evidently, they can't hear you, so it must be close up to your area there. But messing with all that satellite stuff was pretty fun, and I haven't done that since I.
Yeah.
And they had there at the Space Center, sort of like a museum there at Homewood, New Mexico. They had a antenna on display down there that was an old Vanguard tracking antenna that they used for the old Vanguard satellite. And this single element antenna was on display down there. And it had the feed lines hooked up, the end connectors and all that. And I asked the curator of the museum if I could check and see what the SWR on the antenna was. He said, "Sure, go ahead." He was kind of curious himself, and it was resonant at 135 megahertz, but it was so wide banded that up on 2 meters it was maybe about a 1.2, 1.3, but flat at about 135 or so. So that being the case, I hooked a ham radio right into it, and immediately we talked to the Russians aboard the Mir space station when it was up, horizon to horizon. So it actually worked kind of great. But all kinds of all kinds of neat stuff to play with out there, no doubt about it. And all that's, that antenna was used for that's like low Earth orbiting satellites and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, back around to you, Perry. WF3MMR from KD4UMU.
Just dragging my feet because there was another carrier in there while you were talking, but obviously you wiped it out, but I could just barely hear it on your audio. Is there somebody out there that wants to break in? W3MMR, standing by. Oh, nothing heard. Hey! Knock it off! Sorry, my cat's in there. Well, my sister's cat is going crazy in the other room, and I think I've been cat sitting for my sister, and it was supposed to be a few days, and she said I can hold, everything was going good. I could hold on to her for a while, and longer than a few days, and but I think she's ready to go home, or misses her mother because she peed on my couch yesterday morning while I was making coffee in the other room. And then I had noticed that last night, as I was, going to bed, I was sitting on the edge of the bed and I smelled something that smelled like urine. And I said, "Oh, you have got to be kidding me." And she had gone to the bathroom in my bed and got it on my blanket, my sheet, my mattress top. I have a down mattress topper, and this was dried up, so I don't know when it happened, but it wasn't like that the night before when I went to bed, but it was like it last night. So it's not like the litter box is dirty or anything, but I guess she's just acting out and probably ready to go home. So I don't blame her, because cats are creatures of habit and don't like change. So I didn't scald the cat or yell at it or anything like that, or God forbid smack the cat or something like that. I just said no, and probably didn't even know what I was talking about. So that's why it's hard to scold a cat or an animal after hours and hours after they did something, because they have no idea what you're talking about. So so that's a story on that. And that's a cool story about the antenna. I've never done any EME or anything like that, or try to operate any satellites. I've never tried to operate the space station on 2 meters or anything like that. I thought it would be cool, but I never have I guess the ambition or drive to really put something together to do that. Maybe one day, but not at the moment, especially because I've been working so much lately and tired of, well, by the time I get home, and then here on Sundays is my day off, and Wednesdays are my day off, and so I want to get here and just kind of chill out and operate AM, but now that the weather's getting nicer, I can get out of the house some during the day. Well, and it's not now that it's not as cold, but it is 32 degrees here this morning. It was a little chilly here this morning. Get outside, maybe build some more antennas. But the thing is, I don't have any more room here either. That's another thing I wasn't thinking about. So once I move back out to the country, which is what I'm trying to do now, I'm looking for a place over in New Jersey by my father, and I'm trying to get out of the city here and get back over into the country where I grew up, and it would be plenty of room for antennas then. So, and you had mentioned about the height of the antennas a little bit ago. My antenna is 65 feet to the apex, 125 foot doublet, fed with 600 ohm open wire line, and using a homebrew balanced L network tuner here, and it works great here on 75 meters. It works really, really good for local work. Seems to work okay, for distance between you and I seem to get good signal reports, in the mornings here, and it's rare that somebody says, "Oh, I can't make out what you're saying," on 75 meters. I don't think I've ever heard that with this antenna. When I had my G5 RV up, when I first got on 75, it was like that, but not anymore. and it does really, really good for local work. In the evenings, upwards up to 300-400 miles, 500 miles maybe. But before I got on this morning, and I'll turn it over to you after this, I was checking the web SDRs around the country and around the world actually, and I could see my carrier in Hawaii and down in South America and Brazil. And I could see my carrier in Washington State, but I could hear my audio in Nevada, but it wasn't that strong. But I could see my carrier in all those places, just no audio. KD4UMU in the small two-man group, W3MMR.
All right, giving it a little pause there to see if we could hear somebody else. I used to use those web SDRs quite a bit. Then it got kind of problematic trying to get the audio canceled on the computer and back and forth, and it just got to be too busy for keying up the radio and unkeying and trying to listen out and listen to both your receiver and the one there on the web SDR, and I finally just gave up the ghost on the web SDR, and it's like, hey, if I can hear you on my antenna, that's how I'm gonna work you. So I actually got away from using the web SDR. It was kind of a neat novelty item there for a while for me. I thought it was kind of cool that you could just kind of listen to it in any city, just about anywhere, but. I think for me that's what it was a novelty. But I had used it for originally earlier to hear weak signals that I couldn't hear here, but could hear. They could hear me. Running the 400 watt carrier or so. They could hear me pretty good, but couldn't hear them. With 80 watt carrier or less, so the signal just wasn't there. So it was a sort of kind of a bad trade-off if you had to plug in the SDR. But I guess in a pinch if you had to do that's fine. And it's absolutely perfect for doing exactly what you said there, checking your signal and see how it's propagating around the world there or across the states or something, But kind of an elaborate system for doing that, I guess. But hey, go with what works. And a lot of that satellite work was kind of fun. One of the guys down in New Mexico got me started doing that, and that was I first built an antenna. It was a 2 meter antenna, and it was called a Linden Blad or Linden Bulb. Basically, 4 2-meter folded dipoles set up in a box configuration, and you just tilted the antennas whether you wanted right-hand circular polarization or left-hand circular polarization, and mostly everything in space up there set up for right-hand. So, I built one of those, and actually the daggone thing worked pretty good, and it's not real big. 18 or so inches there on one side. So it's pretty cool. It was just something different, and the odd thing was some guys, depending on how they made their Linden Blad antenna, you could either feed it directly with coax, or you had to put a matching network in there, depending on how close you were to building that thing to resonance, So, of course, if you're off a little bit, it's going to change that, But and then would require you to put a matching network in. But man, I'll tell you, that was back before the days of having one of these antenna analyzers. So I've got the old MFJ antenna analyzer over here, and that sure took a lot of guesswork out of doing what we were doing there. And because you're making up quarter wavelength phasing harnesses and everything else. So it was fun to put together. It really was. But the antennas actually did work. So back in the early days, they had a satellite up that was called Dove or DO-17, and basically it just had voice messages on it. And during Christmas time, they'd put a Christmas message on it, or had other messages throughout the year, and you could hear that thing actually quite well. So, it was one of the frequencies you put in your 2-meter radio, and I had mine one of them programmed in the car, so when I was out traveling and all that, and DO-17 made its pass overhead, I could hear the voice on it, so I knew it was overhead. And, of course, if anybody was with you, like, hey, what's that? I was like, oh, it's a satellite going overhead. Oh, that's cool, so, yeah, like I say, novelty items. But it was something fun to play with, and we had the means to do that. But, 2-meter antenna for satellite work, or even 440. A lot of them are 2-meter and 440. Some are HF, but those antennas take up very little real estate, and they don't have to be high off the ground either. As long as they got a clear view of the sky, that's about high enough. Is all you want to have it up. So, hey, you know how it is. 2-meter 440 antenna just really didn't take up much real estate, but it was neat to tune that stuff in and listen anyway. W3MMR. I'm going to run and get another cup. I didn't hit the bottom of it here, Perry. KD4UMU.
Yeah. I'm going to do the same thing here, Dan. I'll catch you back here in a couple minutes. I got to get another cup. W3MMR. KD4 UMU W3 MMR, you back, Dan?
We are here, and reading some of those comments that some of the guys have put on that little blog there on QRZ about NASA and their little radio telescope that they're going to put up there. It reminded me of the old, I think there was an old Bugs Bunny cartoon, some of the flat earthers, talking about the Earth being around like a U-head, and then of course somebody got hit with the hammer on the head, made their head. Says, no, it's a flat like U-head. But yeah, I'm assuming it's probably some of those flat earthers out there that believe the Earth is still flat, or at least it's just beyond me that someone would be that naive to think that. But I don't know, maybe it's just a group and they just love trying to convince other people that their theories are correct, I guess. But you would think in today's world with technology and that everybody kind of understand or should understand what's going on, but yeah, there's still a few out there that believe otherwise. So it's just kind of interesting to see some of the comments on there. So anyway, you're still coming through pretty good down here. The storms are fairly close down here, down western Tennessee and all that, and I'm assuming moving in our direction. So with the band changes a little bit this morning, the lightning is getting intense as far as the noise goes here. So back around to you there, Perry, see how we're holding up. W3 MMR from KD4 UMU.
I did not catch that audio. Did you catch that?
Let's see. We could crank up a little brighter audio, see if that doesn't get the signal through a little bit better there, Perry. How about that? Over.
Oh, you're fine. But I heard another carrier and somebody said something, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. Your audio's fine and your signal's definitely fine, Dan. No doubt about it. And there's another person. I guess people are tuning up maybe for the net. I don't know, but there's been a myriad of carriers. One was slightly off frequency, a little low, and then the other one was a little lower there. But I guess nobody wants to join. And anyway, yeah, the flat earthers. Phew, don't even get me started on them, folks. They're as bad as the conspiracy theory folks, and I don't know. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm a fool. I don't believe in all these conspiracy theories, and I trust my government. I trust what the news says. Not all. You got to be careful, obviously. With what news reports you listen to and news outlets you use, but not all news is mainstream media, in my opinion, is fake news or steering you in the right direction or causing hysteria. And, I don't think the government has an agenda and controls all of these different news agencies, and it's all part of a bigger plan. I don't believe any of that crap. If somebody's listening that does, more than welcome. That's your opinion. That's great. But that's one of those things that, I guess it's like politics or religion, and, that I've learned to not even talk about or get into an argument with somebody about or debate. Not really an argument, a debate, because you're never going to change their minds, no matter what you say. People, just like, I have my opinions, and people aren't going to change my mind. So you might as well just stop while you're ahead and save your breath, But yeah, the Earth's a flat place. Well, Oklahoma's pretty flat. It's about as flat as I've ever seen. When I went to Oklahoma City, I flew into Dallas. Dallas is pretty flat. And then flew up to Oklahoma City there, and that's as flat as I've ever seen. I thought like South Jersey was flat. No, there's nothing like I've seen in Oklahoma. I mean, you get off at Will Rogers Airport, and you start taking I took an Uber into Oklahoma City and down to the hotel I was staying at, and I mean, it is just literally as flat as the eye can see. And Oklahoma City's weird. It's like all these fields around. You see these oil rigs, oil drills, the pumps. The thing go up and down, look like an anvil on the head of it, and that's just open land everywhere. The next thing it's like somebody took Oklahoma City and just plopped it in the middle of a cornfield, because it's all surrounded by all these giant fields and all this flat land. The next thing you know, you're in the city, and there's a couple tall buildings, and it's real quiet, real not busy, and it's weird. It's like a small town, big city, if that makes any sense. But it was cool. I got to see the Oklahoma City bombing memorial, and it was kind of eerie being there because they have a part of the memorial where they have this grassy area where the playground. It was the playground where for the daycare. Where that was, and it's actual, still the ground is still there, and the playground and stuff, and it's pretty creepy. But anyway, turn it back to you, Dan. What was I going to say? I think that's all I got for this round. And drinking a new cup of coffee. Sun's coming up. It's going to be a beautiful day. KD4 UMU, W3MMR.
Oh boy, I saw Carrier in there, but didn't get any audio at all on this end. So, hey, noisy band this morning. But we'll still continue to listen out, and we'll make sure we drop it here at the bottom of the hour here, and let the Florida guys carry on with their net down there. But when I was active duty in the Air Force, Perry, I had taken several, they call them TDYs, or temporary duties, where we'd go somewhere for a couple of weeks and fly F-16s and stuff from different bases and stuff, and Tinker was one of them. We'd gone up there and had actually flown. The pilots had to take the aircraft up and fly the desert ranges up there in Oklahoma City, and so I was introduced to Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma City early on, and none of us were really impressed with Oklahoma City, but there were things to go do. Go to Bricktown or places like that. But when I got done with active duty there and got on with the post office down here, the post office training facility where they teach the maintenance guys how to work on these mail processing machines is located there in Oklahoma, just south of Oklahoma City, and so down in Moore, Oklahoma, down in that area. Well, it's actually Norman, Oklahoma, which is just south of Moore, Oklahoma, which is just south of the city there. But anyway, it was kind of neat, that while we were there, that's where they've got the National Training Center for these weather forecasters and stuff there at Norman, Oklahoma. So just a fantastic location there for looking at weather phenomena and how the hot and dry desert air versus the warm air coming up from the south, and that area right there is the perfect location for thunderheads and stuff to form and all of that. And so I've got to watch several times of being down there, watching those. It's a